Hello there, seventh graders. Let's keep learning about geometry today. Today we are going to learn some specific kinds of angles and some special relationships that they have so that we can get to a point where if I give you a picture and I say, hey, if I know this angle, can you tell me this angle? We don't need to pull out a protractor and measure it. We just need to use the special relationships that exist. There's a lot of new math vocabulary in this geometry stuff. So you're gonna hear me say it a lot. I'll even have you say it back to me if you're in class. I'll tell you to say it back to me in the video. You might feel weird talking to a video, but I promise if you try saying it out loud, it sticks with you better. So get out page 60, get your pens, pencils ready to go. Let's learn some more geometry. On the top of page 60, it says use a ruler to draw two intersecting lines in the space below. You may or may not have a ruler. It's okay. You don't have a protractor either to measure it like it says to, so you're going to kind of watch me do this. If you have a ruler, pause me and grab one so that these are nice and straight. But I drew a straight line across. That's only one line. If it says two intersecting lines, that means I need another one. Intersecting means crosses. So I need to draw another one that crosses through this one. And I'm just going to draw, I can put it wherever. I'm going to draw it like this. Okay. Now it says down here, how many non-overlapping angles are created? Non-overlapping angles means, and I'll draw them on here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 total angles, and I just labeled them. There's 4 total angles. Anytime you draw two lines, two intersecting lines, you will get 4 distinct angles. Now I could overlap angles 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 and get more, but non-overlapping, I have 4 distinct angles. And that's gonna happen anytime. If you cross 2 lines, you get 4 angles, okay? Okay, I'm gonna also tell you what I get when I measure these. And I'm going to label them in my picture. So the way that I labeled these, those are not degree measures. Those are just names of the angles so that we can talk about them together. And so if I say angle 1, you all know I'm talking about this one. Angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. Those are labels. Those are not measurements. I'll say that one more time. Those are labels. They are not measurements. Now I'm going to actually use a protractor and measure them. This is kind of big for my little lines. I prefer these smaller ones, so I can fit a little better. Now I want you to notice, and this can help you make sense of what's going on. I want you to notice that when I drew this line, I actually also drew a 180-degree angle. That's a straight angle. That's why a protractor only goes to 180 degrees because that's all the way out, right? And then we know if we flip it around and keep going the rest of the way, that's a 360-degree circle. Maybe we know that, I don't know. So if I'm measuring this one, do you see how this purple line right here is actually giving me 2 different angle measurements? It's not exactly, but I see this goes to about 120 and 60. That means this acute angle here is 60 degrees, and this obtuse angle here is the 120. It has to be in order for it to create that straight angle there, those measurements that I got. Now here's the thing too, if I flip this over so that I can measure 3 and 4, can you see how the exact same thing is going to happen? Because it's a continuation of those lines. If I put this here to measure, I can see once again that this purple arrow is pointing to the 60 and the 120. So that means this one is 60 degrees and this one is 120. Now, I want you also to know that if I had twisted my paper and maybe measured from this line, watch this. If I go here and measure this, this shows me that I'm not exactly 60 and 120. This is definitely an approximation. But do you see how this purple line also passes by those 60 and 120, 60 and 120? And if I flip it over here, I also pass by approximately the 60 and the 120 right there. And that's because I created this whole picture by drawing 2 lines. And a line is a straight angle. What's a line? It's a straight angle. So Write down at least 2 things you notice about the angles in your picture. Okay, this is important stuff. Are you ready? So 2 things I notice. Here's one thing that I notice. Opposite angles are the same measure. Do you notice that? Can you see how I have 60 over here and 60 over here and 120 over here and 120 over here? Okay, opposite angles are the same measure, and angles next to each other add up to, what do they have to add up to? Well, they have to add up to 180 degrees because they've made up a line, which is really just a straight angle. 60 degrees plus 120 degrees is 180. And that's true if I twist this way too. 120 plus 60 is 180. Any of the angles next to each other add up to 180. Well, of course, we have some math language for this. Okay, so when we fill in the blanks here, we are going to get the math language behind this. Here we go. 2 angles that share a common side, which also means next to each other. Share a common side. Next to each other means share a common side. They are called adjacent. It's kind of a funny word because it's ADJ. We're not used to all that being together, but it's adjacent angles. Adjacent, the word adjacent simply means next to. Like if I was sitting by someone, that person is adjacent to me. Okay, so adjacent angles are angles that are next. Sorry, I had to sneeze and that was going to be loud. Okay, if they share a common side, now a side of an angle is the ray between them. So angles 1 and 2 are considered adjacent because they share a side. Angles 1 and 3 are not adjacent because they only share a vertex. You see that? Angle 1 is here and angle 3 is here. They do not share a side, okay? So adjacent angles end up being when 2 lines cross each other, those adjacent angles, here's our first special relationship today. Adjacent angles are you ready for this word? Supplementary. Oh my goodness, such a big word. Supplementary. 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 5 syllables. Try saying it right now. Supplementary. Try supplementary. So let's write for ourselves as well. Let's make a note over here that all of these things kind of go together. The word supplementary, I'm going to draw an arrow here. The word supplementary means has a sum of 180 degrees. In other words, adds up to 180. And all this stuff starts with S, so that helps me remember it. Supplementary, straight angle, sum of 180. Okay, supplementary means they add up to 180. What does that mean? How do we work with that? Well, I promise I'll show you in a second. The other relationship, when 2 lines cross each other, the angles that are opposite of each other, here's another new vocab word because we don't have enough in these couple little paragraphs. The angles that are opposite each other are called vertical. When we say it fast, it sounds like we're saying vertical, and then people want to spell it CLE, but it's vertical. Vertical angles, CAL. Vertical angles are congruent. Have you ever heard that word before? Geometry has all its own words for stuff, which sometimes makes it seem more confusing than it is. But congruent simply means same. They're equal, same size, because they have the exact same measure. Here's what we're saying. We're saying these angles that were next to each other add up to 180, 60 plus 120. These angles that are opposite of each other have the same measure. And that is a relationship that we can use to find missing angles. Let's give it a try. come on down here, let's practice all this. So again, new vocabulary. Adjacent angles means angles that share a side that are next to each other. And if they're adjacent, then they're also supplementary. And what does supplementary mean? Adds up to 180. I know, so many new words. You're gonna hear me say them a lot. It's the only way to get better at new words is to hear them and say them. Vertical angles are congruent. Let's check out what this even means. Okay, I'm gonna color code this as I draw. So for each pair of intersecting lines, here's a pair of intersecting lines. There's my 4 angles. Find the missing angle measure and then provide a justification or a reason. And that's just, again, to practice writing our new vocabulary. So first I need to find this angle, angle BEC. They weren't nice and just put 1, 2, 3, 4. They put all these letters. Let's follow the order of the letters. Here we go. B to E to C. So they want me to find this one. Notice that I am given this one. Now, the first thing I want to know, and I want to make sure you guys are really clear on, is these 2 angles here, are they considered adjacent? Do they share a side? Or are they considered vertical because they're opposite of each other? Well, here's what I use to remember that. Vertical means only shares a vertex, okay? These are the pink sides I just drew for this angle. This angle would have different sides that I haven't traced at all. So they are not adjacent because they don't share a side. So what is the measure of angle BEC? It is 116 degrees. And how do I know that? Because of vertical angles. Vertical angles are going to be congruent. And I like to label things in my picture as I find them because sometimes that angle could maybe help me find another one. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to change colors. Measure of angle CEA. That goes here. C to E to A. Do you notice how one of the lines that I just traced was already pink? This line was already pink and I just traced it with green. And that means these 2 angles here, the pink one and the green one, share a side. That's what we mean by sharing a side, which also means they are adjacent to each other, right? Are we getting this language here? Because they share a side and are adjacent, that means they must add up to 180. So I'm just going to write over here the math that I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to do 180 minus 116. Right? 180 minus 116, I'm going to borrow and subtract 64 degrees right here. So that angle is 64 degrees. And I knew that because those were adjacent. I'm going to write 2 words. Those were adjacent, which means in this picture, they were also supplementary angles. So I know they add up to 180 because they're adjacent and supplementary. Okay, I'm going to change colors one more time. And I'm going to find D, E, B. Now, you may notice that this green line that I just traced was already pink. You might also notice, do you see how the green and the blue only share a vertex? Do you see that? They do not, I don't have any lines right now that are traced in blue and green. So that means these 2 only share a vertex. That means they are vertical, which means they are congruent. So this one's also 64 degrees, and I used vertical angles to find that. I could have also used the adjacent supplementary with this pink to find it. But the main idea here is, if I have 2 lines that cross each other, I only need to know one of the angles, and I should be able to use vertical or supplementary relationships to find all the rest. And I didn't need a protractor at all. Let's try that one more time. Number 5. Okay, I'm going to color code things again because it's easier for us to talk about and see what's going on. They first start us with, first of all these line segments out here, just pretend for a minute that they're not even there. What if I even I don't know, did a whiteout thing and got rid of them so you guys can see better what we're talking about? So let's say I even just whited out this line here. I won't get all of it very good, but that's okay. And this line here, and this line here, but just kind of pretend for a minute that those are not even there. This line, I'm worried I'm going to accidentally cover up your angle measure. So I'm not whiting it out very well. But if we actually got rid of all those outside lines, can you see how we're really only concerned about these 2 intersecting lines? So if they say here, okay, GJH, I'm going to go from G to J to H. This is the angle that I want. Okay. Well, this angle is adjacent to the one they gave me. You know what? I might find a different one first. What if I find FJH first? That one is adjacent to the pink one, but more importantly, it is vertical. I find it easier to find the congruent ones first because I just get to match them, right? So this one I found from vertical angles. And now on the pink one, I'm going to go 180 minus 129 because pink and green are adjacent. So in this picture, they are adjacent, which also means supplementary. And 180 minus 129 is 51 degrees. You can type it in a calculator if you need to. And then this last one, here it is, IJF. The blue and the green are also adjacent supplementary. Or you can see that the pink and the blue are vertical. Once you get to that last one, you have an option. You can either use a supplementary or a vertical relationship. But the main idea is that you only need one to find the rest. So here's what you're going to do. There are 3 flag designs that involve vertical angles and supplementary angles. One of them is the flag of Scotland. You can't see all the colors, but one is the Dominican Republic and one is the flag of Jamaica. I have given you one of the angle measures and I want you to try and find the rest. Go ahead and pause this video and give that a try. Okay, take a look, see how you did. You'll notice as you write these that there's really only one of 2 things that can happen. Either the angle is equal or it is supplementary. So immediately I knew angle 2 because it's vertical. So those 2 were equal. And then all I had to do was subtract from 180 to get those 2. Now in this case, 90 degrees is that one instance where all of them are 90 because 90 equals 90 and 90 plus 90 equals 180. So all 4 of those are right angles. And then take a look at number 8. This is what we're going to practice today, is this idea of vertical and supplementary angles when 2 lines cross each other. If you have any questions, please let me know.